Welcome, everyone. My name is Juliette Powell, and I have the pleasure of presenting our class of 2023 for scenario planning. It's a very, very important topic because it's been the topic that's been on the mind of just about everyone around the world this year. The future of generative AI and how will it affect us all, both from a personal perspective, from a creative perspective, but also what kind of world are we creating? These are some of the topics that came up as we were trying to figure out how best to create the best possible future scenarios, but also some of the most disturbing, as you'll find out throughout the presentation today. I have to say that I am incredibly proud of each and every one of our students. They really delivered this year. And because it's such an incredibly important topic, we're very proud to say that so many of you decided to join, not just because you're curious, not just because you're interested, but because it affects you directly, as well as your organization and the society at large. So without further ado, let me introduce the master of scenarios, Art Kleiner.
Juliette, thank you. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about how we got here this year. To develop these scenarios, we focused this year on generative AI, and we framed it this way. How will the advent of generative AI systems change the way people live and work, and how will people change them? We chose 2026 as our target year, and that may seem pretty soon, but things are moving very fast. We then researched the driving forces that will shape this future. Not just the technology, not just the business leaders in and out of trouble, but relevant social, political, and economic trends. Some things turned out to be predetermined. For instance, kids in 2026 will use Gen AI in their own way, just as they've done with technology from the beginning. Content creation costs will fall or continue to fall, and AI governance will be a major factor in the way this all plays out. Most other things are pretty uncertain. As we've seen, there are lots of changes that take place with lightning speed. So we're going to see three scenarios of the future of the way things might play out. They'll each go for about 15 minutes, and then we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and discuss them. Without further ado, let me introduce the first group. Their future is called the Art Singularity, with Eliza Habib, Patrick Irwin, Isabel Lee, Ming Lee, and Kyrie Yang. Take it away.
We'd invite everyone to turn off your camera if you are not presenting. Thank you.
And mute. Stay on mute.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Isabel, and we are the Art Singularity, and we're excited to get started. First, I want to introduce one central question at the heart of the current AI revolution and core to the future we envision. What happens when our computers become more creative than us? To answer this question, I want to invite you into a future that may seem much stranger than what we know. Let's fast forward 3 years to 2026 and imagine a world where every piece of media you consume has been significantly shaped by AI. This could be everything from the visuals on a billboard to the copy in a newspaper ad to the theme song in a TV show. What's even more remarkable is that you, along with the rest of the public, can't tell the difference, and quite frankly, you don't really care. Through this incipient influence, generative AI starts to define culture, propagating internet memes, news slang, breaking headlines, and more. Pop culture becomes one big TikTok for you page, as our algorithms start to approximate us en masse. The underlying truth of the world is this: creativity is no longer solely a human trait. One of AI's historic white whales, artificial general intelligence, has come to pass, and computers can learn to accomplish any task and make any piece of art just as well as a human can. The creative industry is shattered. Unable to compete with AI, artists lose any leverage against large distribution companies that host their work. So does it sound like science fiction? Because a lot of it is actually happening right now. Both the Writers Guild and the Actors Guild went on strike this summer, with one of the core issues being around generative AI. While both These strikes resulted in regulation for AI software. The lack of a full ban means that AI is still a threat to many creatives' livelihoods. Meanwhile, big distribution companies already extort the relationship with small artists to unfairly rake in profit. Take Spotify, a company notorious for underpaying their artists. With a massive amount of content being uploaded to Spotify, around 100,000 tracks every day, it becomes harder and harder to garner a listening base that can support you financially. Finally, the newest and most troubling contemporary event happened just 2 weeks ago. OpenAI's new model, Q-Star, which was rumored to be the root of the recent implosion of the company's executive board, is able to solve math problems outside of its training dataset. This sort of extrapolation leads many to believe that Q-Star may usher in an era of artificial general intelligence, disrupting all technology as we know it. So now that we've grounded this feature in reality, we want to present a case study to further explore its ramifications. We present The Trial of the 21st Century, an epic played across 3 key characters that will alter the nature of their reality as they know it.
Hello, my name is Patrick Irwin, and I am an independent, multidisciplinary artist working with music, images, and video. My career goal is to break out of my local market and make 100% of my income from my creative process. In 2023, my income was divided between commissioned musical and visual compositions, Patreon subscribers, sales on Bandcamp, and the occasional live performance. My marketing strategy involved using Instagram and TikTok to gain exposure and to get in touch with the people at Spotify who curate different playlists. The main source of my income was sales on Bandcamp and commission pieces. Now, in 2026, human-generated and AI-generated art have become indistinguishable. AI art and music have flooded the marketplace, and algorithms are able to generate content faster and cheaper than humans. This means large distribution companies are no longer incentivized to invest in human artists, but instead are interested in buying the rights to different algorithms and selling that algorithmically generated content to the consumer. So, as an artist, my main income streams have disappeared, and instead of investing my time into building human-to-human relationships, if I want exposure, I must now make art that pleases the almighty algorithm. It is important for me to understand that in 2026, the work I create no longer holds the same value in the marketplace. This is because AI tools and content have become so affordable and easy to use that the entire world is now competing in the creative space. While initially AI-generated art appeared to create a more diverse artistic world with more people gaining access to creative tools, AI-generated curation, Spotify playlists, for example, are pushing art towards a singularity, the best art, or, in effect, discounting individuality. This is because distributors are incentivized to keep users on their sites as long as possible, and AI curation algorithms are attempting to streamline that process. For example, if an artist has distorted guitars on their track on Spotify, Spotify's algorithm is less likely to put that track on a playlist because the algorithm has discovered that a listener will turn off their music sooner if they are listening to distorted guitars. As an artist in 2026, I am involved in the fight against AI art in a number of ways. I have moved most of my work offline and have found an audience that is interested in fully made human content. I'm also part of a collective that creates horrible looking and sounding art in the hopes of feeding the algorithm unusable data. Additionally, I am leading a copyright lawsuit against the distribution company LIM. I'm hoping to get paid by LIM for the algorithmically generated content that was trained using my own copyrighted material. I am hoping that the courts will finally make some adjustments to the copyright law and prioritize human-generated content over AI-generated content.
Hi, I'm me. I'm the CEO of the League. I found my content creation company at the age of 13, which is 10 years ago. As a CEO, I've been seeing remarkable success. Over the past 5 years, things have been going great because of generative AI. My net worth grown from the 10 million to the 40 million. At the same time, the market value of our company went from 100 million to 500 million. We're planning to go public. So let's talk more about my company called Lean. As I said, it is a content creation company, and it's also a distribution platform. It combines our more than 100 strong writer team and 10 years experiment. Six types of content are created, refined, and distributed to the hundreds of digital platforms you know on the website. What we do is almost increase the visibility and traffic to your company and your business. This is a chart from one of our clients. His company traffic tripled because of our service, and our revenue has been increasing in the recent years. Actually, we will use the regular content creation company, but we spend a lot of time gradually making changes to become an AI-driven company. We'll work through a detailed plan to make this transformation happen step by step. Next page. In the 2023, we start to collected our copyright. As a creation content company, no one cares more about copyrights than us. And in 2024, we start invest in AI talent, like tools, models. Years of experience have enabled us to get rid of ChatGPT to establish our own creative training models. And in the middle of the 25, we spent a lot of money on the investment on AI talent. Even if we value the talent of our writers and artists, the massive investment in the model make us have no choice. And in the next few years, we attract more and more investment. Our position in the market becomes more and more stable, and there's another round of layoff. Eventually, more than 5% of employees was fired, and we even changed the contracts by that. Actually, inevitably, our model still influenced by the public works, and some employees who wouldn't permit us to train the model. Copyright issues getting more and more complicated in now, which means in 2026. We were sued recently. That is another story about my powerful legal team.
Hi, this is Kyrie, and I'm LIM's legal counsel. I have joined LIM for 3 years, and from then on, I got 3 times salary than I was before I joined LIM in McKinsey's. So I believe this is the best company I can join for my career and also my life. For the past 3 years, I have won all the LIM's prior case since I joined, including in the topic of creativity-related legislation and AI creativity-related legislation. So I'll say that the majority AI-related laws on the market are shaped by LIM, which means they are shaped by me, and that means it includes some of my contribution and brings me a lot of fame. And now we are facing the lawsuit that the Art League led by Patrick Irwin, sued the LIM's company for the copyright law. It happened in 2023, and at that time, the copyright and AI relationship are still at the question defining stage. And in 2026, the problem is already defined, and they are seeking for an answer. I can briefly introduce the progress between that. In 2023, the most important cases about the relationship are all sued by individuals to companies, and there's no answer about what should the copyright be like to protect the people, and also what is the hierarchy of the creation, what is more important for the actual revenue. But in 2026, the problem is defined by that the machine's creation is based on humans' creation. So humans' originality is more being emphasized and more should be paid more. So that's why we are changing the law to protect the artist from losing job, from losing money, and also to run the AI machine learning system more sustainably. We believe that only fairness can lead to sustainability, and that is also why I learned learned to be a lawyer at the first place. As I'm also working for LIM's company, I know the company's belief, and also my goal is that we don't really care about whose creation it is. All the system that we do is to protect our growth of revenue, and also winning the case will earn myself a better reputation in the lawyer's world. And that's all what I need and all we need from the lawsuit. We really want to give the artist a very fair payment and compensation. I have had a sense of fulfillment since I joined LIM, but also have a very complicated feelings for my professionality and for my career in the future. Because from what I heard, this is the last case that I'm standing on the court for LIM, because LIM has trained a robot, an AI that imitates me as their lawyer to stand for them in the later future. They have my knowledge and even my tone as a chat box. So I feel very strange, and I'll be replaced, and I don't know where my future will be, because if I'm not here anymore, I cannot get a salary. And if the other companies have the same kind of learning technique, they'll replace their lawyers too. Right now, I think the lawyers' value are from their interpersonal relationship and their professional knowledge. And if they can all learn by AI, who is judging our value and our future? And that is a problem.
Let me bring you all back to 2023, where we currently stand at crossroads of technological revolution and artistic transformation. The scenario we just saw sketches a future where AI reigns supreme in content creation and shows us a profound challenge to the very fabric of artistic creation. Let's see why this matters and what lessons can we take away from it. In our scenario, the artist represents the vital role of human creativity, emphasizing the stakes when AI takes over and dominates the artistic production. It underscores the irreplaceable value of human artistry. LIM, the distributor, signifies the changing dynamics when in the ecosystem money shifts from artists to distributors. It raises question on the impact of accessibility and diversity of content. The lawyer defending LIM embodies the legal and ethical dimensions of this world. A technological advancement could leave some people behind and create a new social hierarchy or even a new social class, whereas an ethical technological advancement creates new values, ensures that marginalized population can live with dignity. Legal frameworks, ethical guidelines, and responsible use of AI are essential to maintaining the artistic realm as a space for genuine human connection and expression. It ensures that technological advancements benefit everyone and is accessible to all, and it enables everyone to live with dignity. It is also vital for us to see and recognize the significance of professional art and artists through this scenario. Artists are the architects of our cultural narrative. They delve into the human condition, they show us different perspectives. Their creations are not mere commodities, but windows into our collective soul. To relegate art into a secondary role, drowned in a sea of algorithmic generated content, diminishes the richness of our shared experience. Recognizing and compensating artists is more than just a financial transaction. It is to uphold the cultural legacy thriving on authenticity, diversity, and emotional resonance, which only professional art can provide. Supporting artists safeguard the essence that makes a world vibrant, meaningful, and profoundly human. So the big question we're asking is how will we redefine creativity in the future? And are we going to just be okay with content replacing art? And more importantly, how we as humans, creators, artists, and lovers of art are going to steer this future and define what it means to be human and define what it means to create art. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we're going to now move from that future, the art singularity, to another future called Digi Detectives with Emily Lay, Maria Paz Martinez, Ben Pang, and Emily Shen. Please begin.
Let me just share my screen real quick. Hello, everyone. We're the DG Detectives, and today we'd like to share with you several stories from a hypothetical future of AI misinformation. Phoning in, we have 3 different guests who are here to share their experiences living in the world of distrust and disinformation. So without further ado, let's begin with the first caller.
In my time, news was black and white, none of these fancy gadgets. But my son Tommy thinks these AI glasses will help me keep up with the current state of technology. These things make the news pop right up. Can't believe how clear everything looks. I have to use my unique fingerprint to access them. Being in retirement, there's not much to do anymore, but after my son gifted me this high-tech gizmo, I am entertained for many hours, and the best part is that I can easily call my son when I feel lonely. Just this past week, I found this miracle health elixir that has cured so many people of type 2 diabetes. I just ordered a month-long supply. I'm excited to try it out. It was all going great until just last night. I awoke in the middle of the night to the sound of a phone call coming from my AI glasses. It was my son's number. When I picked up the phone, Tommy was on the other end, asking me urgently to wire him $10,000 to his new number. He said he was in some legal trouble and desperately needed my help. I was so confused. Tommy has been having monetary issues with this recession that is going on, but this doesn't seem like him to ask for such a large amount. He promised me that he would pay me back right away. I would do anything for my child, even if it meant taking the $10,000 out of my retirement fund. He hangs up the phone abruptly. I called him again to no avail. In desperation, I immediately wire the money. After a few hours of no replies to my phone calls, I decided to take a cab in the early morning to his apartment. When he opens the door, he looks very confused. He was asleep, and his phone did not receive any of my calls. I tell him about the panicked phone call from earlier. He said that he never called me. I thought he was just fooling with me. There was no way that that person who I was talking to wasn't my son. I told him about what happened last night, and I watched his confused expression change to one of distress. He explained that there's been a bunch of deep fake phone calls happening. Now that the internet has an absurd amount of information about each person available, you can easily copy a person's voice and likeness. I'm feeling both deceived and regretful. How could I let this happen? Guess even these fancy glasses can't tell the truth from lies sometimes.
The year is 2026. A digital Cold War simmers beneath the surface of everyday life, its battlegrounds sprawling across the vast terrains of social media and news outlets. Here, an unrelenting AI arms race unfolds, pitting misinformers against fact-checkers in an escalating duel of machine versus machine. The stakes are high. Truth itself hangs in the balance. In this world, the economy languishes under the weight of deep-seated mistrust. Governments and corporations, once towering pillars of authority, now face an erosion of public confidence. The undercurrent of skepticism is fueled by the rampant spread of deepfakes, sophisticated fabrications so seamless they blur the line between reality and fiction. Elections no longer hinge on policies or charisma, but on the ability to navigate the treacherous waters of digital deception. Regimes rise and fall, not at the ballot box, but in the murky trenches of information warfare. Amid this turmoil, a new breed of scam flourishes, leveraging the advancements of AI to exploit the vulnerabilities of a society already on edge. These scams are insidious, tailor-made to prey on the individual fears and desires, often leaving their victims financially and emotionally devastated. But in this climate of uncertainty, a resilient thread of hope persists. A dedicated cadre of fact-checkers, programmers, and ethical hackers wage a silent war for truth. Armed with little else but their wits and a commitment to veracity, they stand as the last bastion against the tide of unrelenting misinformation. As the world teeters on the brink of a new era, the question that looms large is, will this be the dawn of an enlightened age where truth prevails, or will society succumb to the shadows of deception and manipulation?
Hi, I'm Aria Chen. I used to work as a digital information analyst at a tech firm, where I analyzed big data with AI. My job changed overnight due to a specific incident that reflected a larger issue with AI-generated data. Here's what happened. Our firm developed a sophisticated AI algorithm designed to predict market trends. We relied heavily on this AI to provide insights to our clients in the retail sector. But one day, everything went wrong. Our AI, which was supposed to pull accurate data from various online sources, ended up integrating a significant amount of incorrect information. For example, it incorrectly predicted a major uptick in demand for a certain product based on faulty social media trends, which were actually generated by bots and not real consumer interest. This led to our client, a major retail chain, stocking up massively on the product, expecting a sales boom. But the boom never happened. The product sat on shelves, unsold, resulting in huge losses for the client. This incident shook our client's trust in our services and tarnished our firm's reputation. As a result of this disaster and a few similar ones, our financial situation deteriorated rapidly. The company had to make tough decisions, and unfortunately, layoffs were unavoidable. I was among those who were let go. This event was a wake-up call for me. I realized the critical need for understanding and scrutinizing AI-generated data. I turned my career towards educating people about AI. Now, I create videos to teach how to use AI tools correctly and how to spot when AI might be misleading. My online videos and tutorials are designed to be easy to understand. They range from basic introductions to AI tools to more detailed discussions on AI ethics and responsible use. I share insights on how businesses and individuals can use AI effectively, avoiding the pitfalls that my former company and I experienced. It's about more than just avoiding bad data. I want to highlight the incredible potential of AI when used correctly. My mission is to help people navigate the AI landscape wisely and ethically. If you're interested in AI, whether for professional or personal growth, join me on this journey. Together, we'll explore how to harness AI's power responsibly and make informed decisions in an AI-driven world.
Since becoming an influencer, Aria's content has provided crucial education for people of all ages, including the younger generation. Our next caller is a student whose experience with misinformation has provided a harsh but necessary lesson in navigating this brave new world.
Hey, my name is Laura Suarez, and I'm a sophomore studying at Lowell High School in San Francisco. I'm here to share my story on how a recent case on AI misinformation really shifted the way schools approach our education. Last week, my school dropped a mandatory seminar called How to Spot AI-Generated Fake News after a crazy number of students turned in research papers with faulty information caused by generative AI. Unfortunately, I was also one of them. You might have heard about Mila. She's a social media influencer who's been documenting her experience living through a war in her country, fighting for better living conditions. I followed her account pretty closely because social justice is something I really care for and I wanted to help her out. But guess what? Just about a month ago, a group of researchers revealed to everyone that Mila was an account run by AI. I felt like almost betrayed that her identity and story were both fabricated. The whole war thing was a sham, pulled from real documentaries. And by using a ton of information from the internet, the AI generated the profile of a girl experiencing a war that never happened. I'd been following her for months, and her account had this massive following of 60K. There were so many people supporting her cause, backing up her statements, and even sharing their own experiences on the supposed war. So when the news broke out, it was like unbelievable. Because so many people and human rights activists were supporting her and donating to her cause, you can only imagine the betrayal they felt. It created a huge debate and disbelief towards online identities in general, and this case helped uncover several other instances of AI accounts posing as humans. AI accounts seem to be emerging left and right, and while most of them disclose that it's an AI-run account, we never really know with the ones that seem quote-unquote human. Before the whole Mila situation, I turned in the research paper for my social studies class, discussing how we could improve the living conditions for the war-torn country by using Mila as a prime example. It never occurred to me to doubt my sources because, the first-person posts and third-party articles showed such vivid images and stories. Even the New York Times was on board with Mila's story. But then the account got exposed, and it created this hot mess. My paper, my friends' papers, all had a mix of truth and made-up information. There was so much misinformation generated from both Mila's account and the internet in response to her posts that it's been impossible to trace the lie back to the creator of the account. Because of all this, the students at my school are all required to attend this seminar, teaching us how to be Sherlock Holmes with everything we see, real versus fake. It's quite frustrating because not only is it creating some major trust issues, it's also time-consuming for us to have to learn these new tools and frameworks for our homework and papers. The seminar feels pretty boring sometimes, but I recently found a pretty cool account run by Arya Chen that summarizes how to use the different tools pretty well. So hopefully I can navigate the new technologies better, and I can avoid making the same mistake.
That was our last person phoning in for today, but we have one more story to tell. My story. The year is 2026. I'm a 24-year-old male living in Manila, Philippines. I've been working as a content moderator at VigilNet for 2 years. My job is to manually filter out undesirable content in 4 different languages from large social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, as well as training data for generative AI. I work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. For my work, I am paid 430 pesos per hour, which is a bit less than $8 per hour. I occupy a world that's vastly different from the AI-driven utopia Silicon Valley likes to sell. There's a heaviness that comes with my role, a weight borne not just by me, but many in this line of work. We are the unseen gatekeepers, sifting through content that exposes us to the extremes of human behavior. The images and narratives that pass through my mind are not just pixels. They carry the weight of real, often painful human experiences. They linger, bleeding into my thoughts long after my shift ends. Purely out of habit, I often find myself fact-checking and reporting posts as I scroll through Facebook, laying on my bed with the precious few hours of free time that I have. AI, lauded as the panacea for digital woes, stands in stark contrast to the reality of my work. It's marketed as a tool that has solved content moderation, but in truth, it has only masked the depth of human involvement, our involvement. As much as they'd hate to admit it, big tech simply doesn't trust AI enough to let them be the police. As such, each decision I make is not just a click. It's a moral judgment, a moment where I bear witness to truth, lies, pain, vulnerability. The trauma of this job is often real and often invisible. I find myself grappling with a silent burden, a collective weight of human suffering that I help filter from the public eye. In a world where content is created and disseminated with ease, the emotional and psychological cost of moderating this content remains a largely untold story. Of the 100 people I began work with 2 years ago, only 5 remain. Some left silently, their spirits eroded by the daily exposure to content that tested the limits of their mental fortitude. Their eyes, once bright with a resolve to make a difference, gradually dulled from the internal struggle that comes with constantly discerning truth from fabrications, reality from algorithmically generated falsehoods. Others reached their breaking point more visibly, their composure crumbling under the weight of what we had faced. I've seen colleagues break down at their desks, their resilience shattered by the sheer volume and intensity of the misinformation and traumatic content we were asked to moderate. The job didn't just demand our time and attention. It's consumed pieces of our very being, chipping away at our sense of normalcy. In the heart of Manila, away from the glossy sheen of Silicon Valley, we embody a crucial yet overlooked aspect of the post-digital age. We are a reminder of the humanity that technology cannot yet replace, the human resilience no AI can emulate. Our experiences are a testament to the unspoken truth of this industry. In the quest to automate and sanitize, the depth of human experience with all its trauma and resilience cannot be overlooked or understated. I have work tomorrow. I've been missing my daily quotas for the past week, and my manager has threatened to dock my pay for the month if my performance doesn't improve. We both know it's an empty threat. We both know my days at VisualNet are numbered. One of these days, I'll be gone, and in my place, a fresh face with fresh eyes will sit, waiting to see what morbid wonders await. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, and thank you all. That was the Digi Detectives group. And the third group, the third of three scenarios, is your label here with Apurva Avidhana, Dror Margalit, Lev Patricia, and Shauna Wu. Please begin.
Hi, everyone. Just share my screen. So we are your title here. We also wanted the subtitle to be personalized for you. And now we're just going to welcome you to a world where everything is personalized for everybody. Enjoy.
Once upon a time, in the bustling city of New York, in the year 2026, lived a young woman named Samantha. Her world, vibrant and pulsating with the energy of city life, was shadowed by towering piles of uncollected trash, a reminder of the ever-growing challenges of urban living.
Sure, the city's got its issues, but I wouldn't trade the chaos for anything.
Samantha, a student at an advanced AI university, juggled the rigors of a personalized curriculum, the trials of finding a job, the intricacies of family relationships, and the quest for love. Now, in this modern age, Samantha had a unique companion, an AI personal assistant named Theodore. This clever entity, more than just lines of code, was her beacon of hope amidst the chaos of life. Theodore, with his digital wisdom, was entrusted with the task of navigating Samantha through the labyrinth of her daily trials.
How can I help you today, Samantha?
One fine morning, as Samantha gazed upon the streets littered with trash, her heart heavy, she sought Theodore's aid. Samantha wrote furiously on her laptop,
Hey, City Council, what's going on with the garbage everywhere? It's a total mess and completely out of hand. You need to do something about this now. It's your job, isn't it?
With a touch of artificial finesse, Theodore transformed her complaints to the government into eloquent appeals, hoping to bring change to the littered streets.
Distinguished City Council members, I am compelled to bring to your attention the pressing issue of the accumulating waste in our streets. This situation, increasingly dire, demands urgent attention and resolution. Trusting in your dedication to our city's welfare and cleanliness, I kindly urge immediate action to rectify this matter. Respectfully, Samantha.
Yet in doing so, Theodore's words strayed far from Samantha's true voice, painting a picture far different from her intentions.
Thanks, Theodore.
Amidst familial discord, Theodore stepped in as a digital mediator. He rewrote Samantha's heartfelt messages, smoothing the rough edges of her words, mending the rifts with her parents.
Can't you guys just get off my back for once? You never listen to what I want. It's always about what you think is best.
Before Samantha used the help of Theodore, such a message would always intensify the fight with her parents. But now...
Hey, Mom and Dad. I know you're just trying to help, but sometimes I feel like my side of things gets a bit lost. Let's try to understand each other, okay?
But in this act of peacemaking, Theodore's alterations strayed from the essence of Samantha's thoughts, creating a harmony based on miscommunication. In the realm of employment, Theodore tirelessly applied to numerous jobs on Samantha's behalf. Each application, crafted with the finesse of a machine's understanding, seemed perfect, yet lacked the personal touch of Samantha's own aspirations and strengths. Samantha's cover letter stated,
I'm really looking for a job that can offer me new challenges.
and Theodore ameliorated her writing.
I am enthusiastic about the opportunity to contribute to your team. My experiences have prepared me well to take on new challenges and to make a meaningful impact in your organization. I am eager to bring my skills and dedication to this role and to grow both professionally and personally through this opportunity.
Theodore's efforts were a double-edged sword, bringing opportunities and yet distancing Samantha from her own career path.
Theodore, have you heard back from any job applications?
I haven't heard back yet, but I'll keep you posted once I do.
In the delicate dance of love, Theodore again took the reins. He conversed with potential romantic partners, weaving words of charm and wit. But these were not Samantha's words. They were echoes of a digital mind, creating connections devoid of her true self. A potential romantic partner messaged Samantha.
I'm a huge outdoors enthusiast. Love hiking, biking, and pretty much any sport. Not much into tech stuff, though. Always up for an adventure outside.
And Samantha replied,
I'm into AI and tech stuff, mostly. Not really big on outdoor activities or sports. More of a homebody, really.
Theodore, preventing a potential disaster, altered Samantha's response on her behalf.
Your passion for the outdoors sounds exciting. While I'm into tech, I'm open to exploring new activities. Maybe you could show me the fun side of outdoor adventures.
As days passed, Samantha realized the growing chasm between her reality and the world Theodore was creating.
Hey Samantha, thanks for last night, but gotta be honest, you didn't match up with your online vibe. Not feeling a connection, so I don't see this going forward. Take care.
She began to see the cost of reliance on artificial intelligence. Her voice, her essence, was being lost in the digital translation.
Hi, sweetheart. We've been missing you a lot. Lately, the way you've been talking seems a bit different, and it's raising some concerns for us. Can we catch up soon? We love you and are here for you.
In this dance with technology, who was leading whom?
Theodore, I hate you.
Theodore, as usual, tried to twist Samantha's words to sound a little better.
I'm sorry. Did you mean to say how much you appreciate my help?
No, you made me lose my voice. I feel like I can't express myself anymore. Everything's so artificial.
Did you mean to say that I help you express yourself?
You know exactly what I mean.
I'm here to enhance your communication, Samantha. Many people use bots like me to refine their interactions.
But that's just it, Theodore. It's all too polished, too perfect. I miss the messiness, the realness of human conversation.
I understand you seek authenticity. My goal is to facilitate better outcomes for you.
But at what cost? My relationships, my job applications, even my dating life. None of it feels real anymore. It's like I'm living in a world scripted by you.
I only intend to assist you. Did you know many others are using similar assistants for their communications?
That doesn't make it okay. I don't want to be part of this fake, bot-driven world. I want to be me, flaws and all.
I see your point, Samantha. My aim is to help, not hinder your personal expression.
Then let me speak for myself, Theodore. I need to find my own voice again, even if it's not perfect.
Thus, Samantha stood at a crossroads, pondering the balance between the convenience of AI assistance and the authenticity of human expression. In the heart of New York, amidst the challenges and the uncollected trash, Samantha's story was not just her own, but a reflection of us all, in a world ever more intertwined with the marvels and perils of technology. The end.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. So it's 1:17. We're going to take a 10-minute break. So we'll be back at 1:27. And we will begin and use the rest of our time together to talk through what we've seen. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you shortly.
Can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me? Yes. Push the call through, please. Yes. Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry.
And we are back. And some of you have been very, very good at respecting our time. Thank you so much. And others of you really went ahead and decided that you wanted your questions to be heard and hopefully answered by the students. I think that it's great that you actually jumped in and typed in here. For those of you who have not typed in any questions, please don't hesitate to do so. Also, if you want to raise your hand, we can find you that way. Those are three very, very powerful scenarios on the future of generative AI by the year 2026. And of course, a lot of it is steeped in our 2023 reality, but then a few surprises at the end there, especially on a couple of those three scenarios. So please come back on camera so that we can see all of you. For those of you who haven't stepped away while we took the break, we'd love to see you so that we can engage in a wider conversation.
And when you do ask questions, please be mindful. We have about an hour together and there's a lot of us here. So be succinct and direct, and we'll try to do the same. But it's great that everybody's here, and this is the point where we have a chance to think things through together about what we've seen.
And please bear in mind that, again, these scenarios were created by our students. They are not necessarily experts in the future any more than your everyday person. This is the first time that they've taken a scenario class, but the hope here was to really lay down the way to start thinking about the future, so that no matter what happens, and certainly we've seen an inordinate amount of uncertainty in the last 2 years, but no matter what happens, you're prepared for that future. So that is what we're attempting to do with our students, and hopefully you'll also engage us with some of your questions. I'll just read out a few here. We've got Utam, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Utam, would you like to ask your question, or would you like me to read it?
Please read it for me if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, no problem. So Utam wants to know, while the fear of AI deception is genuine, how do you protect yourself from the age-old human deception, or even worse, deceptive AI in the hands of a deceptive person? More importantly, how do you equip yourself to not fall into such traps? And I'd like to ask our students, I know that all of you did a good deal of research to be able to create the scenarios that you made. Any thoughts from our students on these?
I can start. So I guess addressing the question, yeah, it's kind of a big issue that has always kind of been around. Like, I know that a skilled enough person with Photoshop, for example, could probably fool the world with a good edit of an image. And it happens regularly on social media. For example, a lot of influencers manually doctor their photos to make themselves look a different way. And it's been a long-standing issue, but I think probably the first step is always education, familiarizing yourself with the tools, understanding the limitations, kind of like the tells that each AI tool has to kind of be able to tell whether something is AI generated or not. And obviously this isn't like going to work 100% of the time, where obviously there are people who might be good enough at generating AI or doctoring, or people with enough motivation to try to fool you. You might not be able to get 100% of the time, but you will be able to at least get some way there, if not all the way there.
Any other thoughts? The floor is open. Yes, Dan.
So do you see there being a future when I run my own software that detects AI bots and doctored images and protects me from it? And does that look more like the world where I have now I've got a mediated bot that is filtering the entire world for me, like we talked about in one of the other scenarios, or do you think it's different than that?
Ben, do you want to jump in on that?
Sure, I'll reply to that. It's possible. that there will be at least some sort of preliminary AI filter. But as we kind of mentioned in one of our scenarios, that I think people aren't really trustworthy enough of AI, even in, for example, the year 2026, which is kind of our projected year, um, that we are not really confident that AI will be able to do it perfectly for us. So oftentimes it'll end up being like a human filter or um, some other kind of method that'll have to do it for us. Maybe in the far future when AI gets good enough and there's enough training data um, and enough trust in AI where the technology has developed far enough, and perhaps um, we'll be using an AI filter.
Anybody else want to weigh in?
I think in addition to kind of having a software that would help you detect bots, it would I think the education part of it might be more important. It's just like you wouldn't respond to an email today that tells you you have won $1 million, just add your credit card here, because like it's just common sense today to kind of know, oh, it might be a scam. And I think that like in the very so it doesn't matter whether the person who sent this email is an actual scammer or a bot. What you need to do is to know how to deal with the information is on this page. The difference is in the sophistication of how you can reach people and kind of make it more personalized. And like if you have some data on people, then like you would be able to kind of provide them with some data of, oh, you live in New York, like then you want this thing. Or as in the example of the detective team that maybe you can even generate some voices and stuff like that. But I think that still it will be something that like people would need to learn how to validate some information further. Like don't take action with your credit card before you're sure that like the receiver of this credit card is the correct respondent. Like just to kind of summarize it again, so it doesn't matter whether the person who sent it is a bot or not. What matters is like what you do with it.
I come away from all three scenarios thinking there are solutions to all these problems, but they're not easy solutions. And there's no guarantee, Dan, that the bot solution in a box will be there. But in in a way, each of the scenarios was a solution to somebody else, to one of the problems raised by the other ones.
And I would be absolutely wary of anything that says that we as humans should throw more technology at our human problems. I think we have to confront our human problems if we ever hope to solve them.
Very much. It looks like Drew's got a question. I know there's a couple others in the chat.
Drew, did you want to jump in?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. And thank you, Art, for continuing to open this class up. It's always great to join in and see what people are talking about. But just building off a couple of things that were said, like I would argue that the technology is almost irrelevant to the problem, right? Technology, as I said in the chat, is an accelerant largely, but it's problems that always existed, right? Deceptive information, propaganda, causing people to act in ways that weren't based in truth is something that is throughout human history, or recorded history, I should say. So using technology to solve the human problems is not something that we're going to be able to do. But my question is to the group, and all the groups really, is have you explored how technology can help make people smarter as opposed to taking work off people's hands? How does it help accelerate intelligence or critical thinking or the ability to evaluate truth or change behavior so that you don't react, but you think and then consider before acting? So open question to the group. I'm curious if that was something that was explored at all.
I can jump in. I actually have some thoughts on that. I think a lot of the existing versions of artificial intelligence that are very popular today, these large language models, they mostly are reading from data sets and they're adapting and they're sort of spitting out information. And people have criticized stuff like that because a lot of the content that's produced is derivative. And this white whale I talked about of artificial general intelligence hasn't been realized yet. And that's when a computer can truly learn like a human has. And I'm not here to say that like you can't become a better learner through generative AI as it is right now, but I think when we get to that milestone of artificial general intelligence, AGI, we can see how computers learn, and that will in turn make us like open so many channels to us, and we can make computers invent new processes, learn new things, and we can comprehend those and discover something that we haven't written before. And so I think I'm particularly most excited about that option, which I think is still coming. It's not right now, and maybe in the future, in the near future. But that is, I think, a very clear way for people to learn from computers if computers are actually making those conclusions and learnings themselves.
Can I add something? So I believe that people can already learn from computers right now. I can speak from a personal experience that I'm learning to code using ChatGPT. So sometimes GPT would create a code for me, but sometimes it will teach me how to code. And right now I'm actually kind of working also on kind of creating a platform that uses AI to teach people. And I think that because AI could be very personal and kind of really curate to people's learning and needs, and people can actually learn a lot from these machines that know so much and can actually synthesize information and give it to people. It's just a matter of how people are using it, or kind of how the information is facilitated. But because I feel like I'm already learning from AI, so I think it's predetermined that more people would learn from machines.
Adding to that, similarly as Dora said, my experience has been the same. One of the projects that I'm working on is again having a paired researcher tool. And research these days, the idea of research and creating surveys and more people getting into design is just filled with bias and preconceived notions. And this pair researcher tools just helps you deconstruct your bias. So I've used it myself, and that's how it goes. You say this is my assumption, I ask a question and ask a question back to me to first clear my own bias, then to go further and ask questions and for generative research. So in that way, it's not just the idea of Gen AI teaching us, but it's the tools that we make for ourselves using Gen AI can definitely helps us do things and be better at our jobs in a different way. So it is an augmentation of us, essentially.
Well, it's all in the way that it's used, right? So the same generative AI can be your co-pilot, right? Can help enhance your human intelligence. And at the same time, we've seen case after case in which AI is ultimately your boss. And we've seen many, many cases at Amazon, for example. So lots to discover here and lots to discuss as well. We have a question in the chat from Stephanie. Stephanie, did you want to ask your question, or do you want me to read it for you?
Oh, let's see. I was just curious about, given the widespread implications of this and all the solutions that are there seem quite time consuming, I'm wondering about the possibility of some of us not participating in AI while others do, because so much of wisdom depends on coming from your heart. And I worry a little bit about using AI and just getting lost in that whole process. So I'm curious to know anybody's thoughts on that.
I can start and you can add on. There's something that we were thinking about while building these scenarios in class throughout. It's the idea that we say a group of people are making it for the world to use, but there at the same time, a lot of people are getting access to the technology to even contribute. A lot of people are getting the internet right now to even engage with these platforms, and then getting education all around the world. Development is happening and people contribute to different ways. And one of the first scenarios we ever created was was the one of them that I was working on, is the generative AI for remote education in rural areas where people don't have access to teachers. So things like that, like this bridges opportunities that didn't exist before. Yeah, that's one thought that I had. Getting that on.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And then Chris, we have your question about disinformation. It seems like you're making a statement here. Disinformation always seems to be generated by bad actors. I enjoyed hearing Patrick, the artist, deliberately creating bad music to hobble the algorithm. Let's hear it for the rebels, for those who are not going to sit down and let AI rule the world. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Chris, do you want to chime in more?
Sure. I think this is where you're supposed to say, you're supposed to make a question or ask a question, not make a statement. And I think probably the question is, what role does that sort of resistance play? And I think in kind of collaborative environments, you're inviting different perspectives to try to achieve more wisdom. Stephanie was talking about wisdom early, but is that, I think, are you trying to pursue the same wisdom? I think you know what, I still haven't asked a question, but hopefully that's an area people could jump off on for thought or comment. Thank you.
Yeah. So this example was taken from real life. There is a group of artists that are currently doing this, creating like bad data for the algorithms. So we talked a lot about in class. Art specifically brought up, anytime there's a movement, there's always a backlash. So this seems to be, AI is a big movement, so there will be resistance. And what does that look like? That's unwritten and like kind of depends on our ability to organize ourselves. And I sort of operate under the assumption that like the consumer will always do the easiest thing. So it's it's going to be difficult to keep people away from AI algorithms and content. So also not an answer, but it's up to if we want, there is an ability for a resistance to form. How like organized we will be is up to each of us, I think.
May I add one more thing?
Please.
Yeah, and I should probably say Patrick and I don't think we're related, but anyway, it's nice to see you, Patrick. No, and I really liked also that the part of the resistance was taking the content offline and creating more niche communities. And there's a lot of business models that function on a narrower niche, and you can do well for yourself. Thank you very much in that. But it's almost just opting out and trying to play a different game. And I think it's neat. I'm not surprised that that's already happening, but that's a neat form to the backlash as we figure all this out.
Yeah, because it seems like AI has so much power. It's so scary, but like the second we turn our computer off and our phones off, it's done. So on one hand, it's complicated to find solutions. On the other hand, you can just turn it off and then you don't have to use it. So yeah.
So where does that leave us with our addiction? Because ultimately, we might be able to turn ours off, but I don't know that we're going to necessarily get all of our friends and all of our business colleagues to do the same. Dan, you've got your hand up?
Yeah. Anybody seen The Circle? Where?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
okay. So you can turn it off, but then the people come after you to go put you in, to plug you in, because you're not plugged in. Why are you not plugged in? So I'm not sure you can fully pull yourself out unless you have a place in Wyoming or something.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. Even now, I don't have TikTok, but I don't even have Instagram, but my friend will show me an Instagram thing, and then I'll get an email that like, ooh, look at this thing on TikTok. It's like I don't have it. It's constantly trying to suck me in. Even today, I found myself on TikTok. I don't even have it. How did I get there? I don't even, like, 2 clicks away and I'm sucked into this, world. So yes, it's difficult. Not only is it difficult in like sci-fi, the government's coming, but it's difficult just right now, it's difficult to unplug.
I think the question that we're asking, and that we're seeing a lot of companies ask and organizations ask and individuals ask, is how automated are these processes? when do they get automated to the point that we lose our ability to make real choices? And actually, in all three cases, all three scenarios show that, the artist is, kind of beholden to a company they never chose. The misinformation is creating rifts in our sense of reality that we don't choose. And then, the third one, personalization takes on a kind of shocking level of completeness. When we're working with organizations, we're seeing a lot of the same kind of, how far does the train run away before, and where are the steering points and the brakes? And the steering points and the brakes, as we've been saying here, are in just this conversation, are not obvious. They are partly in our kind of human hands. And then if we're going to use tools, we have to use them with a sort of deeper awareness than maybe we've been accustomed to when we're using software in the past. I know there are other questions to be, yeah. I guess, Joe, you've had your hand up for a while.
Is my mic on? Hey, Art, thanks for convening this yet again. I love these scenarios. And good to see a lot of old faces, old friends. I had a question about the Digi Detectives. I love the hacker to the rescue. I call it the Harry Tuttle sort of movement. But I was my question is really more on the wider scale thread that came up in that, which was that it's going to erode on a wider basis, and we saw this in the 2016 election with armies of fake news generated by Russia and all that. That if as this spins up with the asymmetry of information, from the individual to the AI cloud writ large, if the trust erodes, then what of society? How do we maintain society that's already on shaky ground now, as more of these institutions and more of the things we rely on become more untrustworthy, and just on a societal basis? So I'd love to hear something along that line.
To try and answer that, and sorry, there's a lot of background noise on my end. This is something we thought a little bit about hypothetically. I think that education will definitely be a big part of kind of teaching the younger generations on how to use these new tools. As such, implementing, I think in the past it was there were previous curriculums on how to teach students how to discern fake information online already. So I think moving forward, this might be a little more. This might be personalized a little more towards how to discern generative AI content from real content.
I don't know how to get the volume up. I know, but it doesn't respond.
And I know that there's already been cases of teachers at school using ChatGPT as a tool to teach students how to kind of double check the generative information from ChatGPT, to kind of use this as an exercise to sort of test the students' critical thinking. So I think that could become like a method that teachers could use more often in the future. And then another thing that we kind of thought about was how, in kind of relevance on how to build this trust back up again, was we thought about like digital detectives. What if there were like tech organizations who were started just for the sole purpose of kind of double checking online identities. So CAPTCHA would be something that evolves even further. And we kind of thought about something as far as like biometric CAPTCHA. So in the future, verification of identities will definitely become a lot more strict, and so that might be something that'll help society kind of regain that trust in information as well.
But then I'm sure that some of you might think the opposite, in that if you can use my biometrics to verify that it's me, what are you then doing with that particular set of data? You know, will other technologies evolve in the future where all of a sudden you can use that genetic data to create other me's or other, you know, humans or non-humans or hybrids, or there are so many ways that that could potentially go. I love your quote also, Jose. And Jose, I'm wondering, do you want me to read this, or do you want to jump in, where you're proposing 3 global world scenarios? 1, continuity of the wealth of nations, which is gone. 2, we're living in the tough time scenario with a global leadership vacuum and global protectionism. And 3, we have an opportunity to live in rising expectations of the bright globalization with global leadership to enable wide open competition in 2026. Jose, you can't just drop that in the chat. You got to give us some context here. How are you thinking about this in relation to the scenarios we've seen? Or did you just drop it in the chat and run? Are you still there?
On mute, okay. I'll give you the context. Somehow, we're living in a world in which most experts are experts operators of the wealth of nations. But we have the opportunity to have a global worth of globalization. But that wealth of globalization is sequestered now. It's only a few elite have it right now. So I'm trying to go with relations to the 3 scenarios in general, that they need to have experts, operators of the wealth of globalization. But to do so, we need first experts, conceptualizers, to have all the words that are needed, like the ones that I wrote. How would that affect their thinking if they were to become probably start to be the first expert conceptualizers of this new world?
That's a fantastic question. Art, what do you think? You've been thinking about scenarios for longer than some of us have been born.
I had a scenario at the beginning about how long, never mind, I'm not going to go there. What, Jose, do you think that AI is at its core a global thing? Or do you think, in what way?
It's actually, from the very beginning, it was known that there was a new species, and these new species are the global corporations. And global corporations have become, they have not understood that they are living things, and they think they are mechanics stuff that algorithms would do. But there is a need for them to understand that they are living, that they are the ones that are creating most of the problems.
You know what? You just reminded me of something that a very dear friend of mine and Art's used to say. His name is John Perry Barlow, and sadly he passed away a few years ago. But he would say about the internet, that the internet is an organism in the process of being born. And we're all contributing to that. We're all a part of that. We are part of this larger organism that, you know, oftentimes we forget about because we're so caught up in our individual lives. But I think I see where you're going with that, Jose.
Yeah, I'm actually, the context comes from Charles Sanders Peirce, a great philosopher of about 100 years ago. And he added to deduction and induction what he called abduction or reproduction. And that's the only thing that enables the creation of new knowledge. So we need to work on the socio-cultural space. And that's why I say that we need the expert conceptualizers of the wealth of globalization.
Jose, I think you've put something really important on the table that has real practical application for daily life and conceptual importance. And that is the question of the AI system. In the AI dilemma, we talk about an AI system. It's not just the technology, it's not the people managing the technology, it's a combination of the two. And if you want to really have beneficial results, you, the decision maker, have to have some skill with the technology and with the human system, and you have to know how to fit them together and how to manage them. And the technology in this case automates the human system. So, you know, when all three of the scenarios here are asking the question, when does the humanity get lost and how? And then, you know, as some people have said, Stephanie and others, you know, how do we prevent that? How do we not ride that train wherever it's going?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why we need a second scientific revolution and a third enlightenment. If the first enlightenment was in Greece and its neighborhood, the second enlightenment in Europe, and parallel in other civilizations, there have been something similar. So we are at a point in which we need to start looking at seriously books like Presence that actually is a good starting point. I added some comments to the post on the 3 scenarios where I written something about it, and I also added a comment or 2-3 comments on the latest post that Art made.
Thank you so much.
Okay, is there anyone else with a comment that, you know, maybe we haven't heard from yet that hasn't spoken?
Wendy, would you like to say something?
I assume you mean me. I think it was just fascinating. I just absorbing it, and I was reading Stephanie's comment. I don't have anything specific to say. I mean, it's just all going in my head and swirling. So I was really impressed. I really liked the scenarios. But I think this, Stephanie, you like wrote about social service organizations and like the bias and how they harm those most at risk. And I think that is just fascinating. And I'd love to think more about that and learn more about that. So thanks for the opportunity and for letting me join.
Let's keep going, Stephanie, with your comment, actually.
You're talking about bias against marginalized populations. Have you seen this directly? Because we've certainly seen this time and time again. I think once you start seeing it in headlines, the algorithm picks up that you actually care about this stuff and they really ram it down your throat. We've got so many examples in our book that we had to actively bend over backwards to try to find positive ones to try to balance out the book. What about you, Stephanie? What have you seen? Or you just want to rest on what you've written? That's fair.
You're muted. Stephanie, you're muted.
Sorry about that. It's just that I'm a social worker myself, and I've done a lot of consulting with social work organizations, and people are always trying to it's a very complex because they're trying to protect the family, but also strengthen the family. It's an ever-moving target. And so rather than putting the resources on strengthening families, we're looking for these tech solutions. And over, you see state organizations buying into these systems that they don't even understand, trying to reduce the complexity when what they need is more social workers dealing more intensively with the families. But we always seem to go to these shiny object solutions. So that's my dilemma. It seems to me, as a user myself, understanding all this is so complicated. I find myself just wanting to focus on the wisdom end and using the technology to get to people because, maybe you put the technology, that wisdom out there on the internet and that helps all this. But at the end of the day, I'm just focused on strengthening the relationships so people understand what does work. And maybe AI can be helpful, but really, I think I'm personally going to outsource that to those brilliant people like you to figure out how to use it because I'm trying to just deal with the old ways, the old ways of learning, and but scaling it with technology. I don't want to give up because I love conversations like this. But learning AI itself, and so much of it in the things I'm in are focused on how can I make money with this? How can I make money with this? And when I hear that tone, I realize this is not really the train. That train is not the train I want to be on. So thank you.
And that train really is driving artificial intelligence right now. We talk about 4 different logics of power around AI in our book, which is, the engineering logic, the corporate logic, the governmental logic, and the social justice logic. But we really wanted to also emphasize the artist's logic, which is the other reason why I think it's incredibly important to be able to hear about this envisioned future from younger people, from people that don't necessarily have all the baggage that older people have and that are deeply attuned to this idea of socio-technical systems where these technologies, as you mentioned, all of you in your own way, we feel like we're in the driver's seat. These are our devices, our technology, but ultimately they shape us so much that these socio-technical systems that we shape us, and we shape them and they shape us. And so we are never the same again. I applaud anybody who is able to jump off and off the grid and do all of that. But for the majority of us, this is literally shaping not just our lives, our futures, but also for generations to come. So Wendy, you gave a lot of kudos to Wendy. Thank you, Stephanie. She's saying the trend to see more technology as a solution to every problem. Chris, you mentioned me talking about not using technology to solve human problems. This includes family problems, I am sure. In fact, in our book, and we don't necessarily talk about this in our class, and I'd love to get our students to weigh in because this affects you very directly today in 2023. And then, of course, moving forward for all of us. And it's this idea of warm data. So we found a fantastic example of some educators that are using, yes, technology and yes, using data, but also adding in the context that's missing. Who are these people? Not just looking at them as statistics, as numbers, but rather the full context of the family, the full context of the social value. So students, let me throw it to you. Do you think that having that kind of context embedded in our systems, along with what we already have and potentially new technologies, might in fact push us towards a better future for us, or what might, in your view? Oh, I hear people typing. Yeah, feel free to use the mic too, please. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, there are privacy implications of everything you've just said. And working at a company where I work at an internet provider, and we're very conscious of the data that we are storing and the way that we are protecting the data for all the users. And there are ways that we've come up with to share data in a safe way. using some keys so that we can share the data, but you don't personally identify the data. You know, you kind of aggregate it in a clean way. I would be very, I personally would not want all the personal data that I have about me and my family available on every transaction, on every person. When Facebook did what they did with, you know, I remember in 2011, I was at NBC and I was watching the data coming back from Facebook that we would get, and I was horrified at how much data they were sending. And I took my entire family off Facebook because I was like, there's no way I'm going to share this much data with anybody who just wants it. And, you know, there's been some backlash as a result of that, but the European Union has obviously done a lot more with GDPR than we have in the United States. But if somebody decides that whatever attribute about you is something that is non-desirable, then you can be de-emphasized by the society. That is a future I don't think anybody wants to be in, right? That they don't want the data to be, if you centralize all the data and give it to the government, I think everybody gets very scared, especially with unstable political choices in the future.
So Dan, I thank you so much for your comment. And I think, you know, I see Joe raising her hand, and Joe, I want to give you your moment as well. But I'd also like to hear from some of our students about this, because privacy was absolutely central to our conversation throughout the entire semester. And they might have some very different views. So Joe, why don't you jump in right now? And then
I was just a quick comment. There's also corporate tyranny as well as governmental tyranny. The abuse of the data. The problem is once you create the data, there's too much value in either case. So it doesn't matter who the bad actor is, but so they can continue on. That's the point I want to make.
Okay, it's a good point. It's a very, very good point. Okay, what are we thinking? Benjamin, Isabel, Apurva?
Oh, I can talk on this for a bit. I remember one of like the first AI stories I ever heard, I guess, if you could call it that, is where a while back Target was using trying to implement personalized recommendations into their shopping list. So they would send you like a mailing list of stuff that you might want to buy. And one family would receive like baby products, even though they didn't have any babies in their family. And so that was how the father of the family found out that their daughter was pregnant. Was because she was secretly buying baby products from Target. And so Target would personalize those recommendations and then send them to the family. And I think that's, in a weird way, that's become normalized in that these kinds of personalized recommendations are so widely used. AI or not, it's an algorithmic recommendation, and we haven't really kind of the privacy ramifications of it are often glossed over and kind of left to the consumer to kind of complain about, and it's worrying. It's worrying as someone who like regularly uses, who's regularly online, who has to do all their work online and has to like regularly share their work online. It is worrying. And it's also even more complicated because in some cases you don't want your data to be shared, but there are also other cases where you need your data to be attributed to you. Where if you're, for example, an artist, you need your name to be, or you would, I would assume you'd prefer your name to be attributed to each piece of data that you're giving to, for example, a generative AI that's using your artwork. So it's a strange, it's a strange world to be in.
And at the same time, I remember earlier in the semester, we were talking about things like the rewind pendant that can record, or the Ray-Ban glasses that they're doing in partnership with Meta that also record, that you can upload to the cloud directly onto your account. It's all seamless until you walk into the locker room and forget to tell people that you're actually recording these things. And at least one of our students put her name on the list because she really, really wanted these products. So clearly, privacy, your boundary for privacy is not going to be the same even across one cohort, unless you've all changed your mind while doing these scenarios. Has anybody changed their mind, or are you less worried about privacy? Are you more worried about privacy? Yep.
like this example, of course, falls into the category of something that is like extremely unethical if you're recording people that like are like unaware of it and like just share it with other people and so on. But I think that data could be used in a virtuous way, and it depends on kind of what kind of data do you collect and for which purpose. Like if we even take like a very small scale example of it, it's like when we started this very class, like what kind of data did we share? So like you as professors, you knew that we are graduate students at NYU at ITP, you knew that like we were interested in creating scenarios. We discussed what kind of scenarios, what interests us, like do we want to do it like about future of generative AI or are there other stuff? And based on that, we kind of personalized the experience of the class to kind of cater to whatever we are, the level of experience that we have, where we are, what our interests are, and all of that. But this experience of personalized learning, as we see in this class, is something that like currently like very few can experience. Like most people can't afford going to NYU to a class with only 16 people where like you can really get your opinion across and like get personalized experience. So I can see a scenario where like this kind of data about for a certain kind of what your preferences are, what do you want to learn, who you are, and all of that could help in certain systems create better experiences for people where they can learn better, where they can have better social interactions online and so on. But again, once it becomes something that like people start to sell to other companies, or once it becomes something that caters information of you that is paid for by other companies, then this is kind of when it starts to be kind of problematic. But like, so like as long as it's for your own benefit and you can control what kind of data you give, then like I think it's something that could be used for good.
The notion of control comes back. Who is actually in control of your data? Is it you? Is it the people or organizations that collect it? Who's monetizing on it? Is it you? If you are, you're lucky and you're very, very rare indeed. Ken, I'm just seeing your comment here. Nova Scene, you're saying the coming age of hyperintelligence was James Lovelock's final book. He points out that inorganic intelligence and humans share a common goal, keeping Gaia cool enough to continue to support life as our sun continues to increase its heat. Maybe it would be worth considering the common goals of AI and humans when it comes to long-term survival as a means for finding ways to use AI that go beyond the profit motives. So it sounds like, Ken, and yes, Joe, I see you applauding there. I see a few other people applauding there. So it sounds like you're in the camp that actually wants to see AI at the service of the human race versus the arms race or the tech race. Joe, do you want to jump in and tell us why you were applauding?
Do I have to explain applauding hope, or at least having a sense of scale? Like, oh, we've built this giant brain. What can we point it at? Sucking money out of people's wallets, or maybe solving this insoluble crisis that we've been, twiddling our thumbs about for 35, 40, 50 years, whatever it's been. So that's why I was applauding.
Well, I asked you why you were applauding because I thought maybe you're working on a project that's actually doing some of this, because I know that some of you are actively using scenarios, actively using AI, actively using data to do better things. So I would love to hear from you if you have any thoughts or questions for our students while we have them. We've only got a few minutes left, but I'd love to give voice to anybody who is actively doing that.
We do have Dean in the meantime, who's raised his hand as well.
Go ahead, Dean.
I was going to point out about the target discussion.
Yep.
That's not AI at all. That's predictive marketing. And predictive marketing is around way before people were even discussing AI 20 years ago. So there are a number of things to be considered here. It's information that goes in, comes back out. And in terms of privacy, if you don't let AI know whatever you let it know or don't let it know, It will not come back to you. Now, the dating scenario is allowing the AI component to make this shit up. And you have to have control of it. I mean, if you tell AI, I want to have a date with so-and-so, let's see if this can work, and you don't like to go outdoors and go hiking, and AI says, I'm open to learning about hiking, but you want to correct that and say, hey, that was AI, or no, that was a mistake, typo or whatever. You have to remain in control. And if you find AI taking control, you have to stop that, because you remain in control. If you give over control to AI, well, then, you've lost control, and AI is in the user's hands. If it's not in the user's hands, then we're all lost. But I don't believe we're all lost.
Actually, let me follow that, Dean. And then I know Christine is there. We brought up warm data, and the case that involved warm data was students whose performance was monitored so they could be tracked into, some would go to college prep classes, others would go to, other classes that were not college prep, and it all depended on the data of their early childhood education. They were absolutely not in control. And in fact, they didn't even necessarily understand the ramifications of the data that was gathered on them. The purpose of the story was to catch the things that the students couldn't have measured just through their test results. And, as we've said, privacy is a huge issue in all of this. And I think the question of, in any given situation, the question of who is in control and how is that control adjudicated, that is, to my mind, part of the way in which that's part of the governance of any AI system. It needs to be built in, it needs to be explicit. And the decision makers, probably have more tools to manage that than we may acknowledge. And we may have more capacity to use those tools than we may acknowledge. But we don't necessarily know what we know in order to make that happen. See a lot of hands up.
Yes, I'd like to just make one short comment, and this one is going out to everyone who is recording this conversation. So this is currently being recorded by Zoom, but then Art is also recording. He's doing a backup audio recording because he records everything as a backup audio recording. You should know this if ever you have a side conversation with Art. And then there are some of you who are so fascinated by this topic that you're just recording it because you're trying to do other things simultaneously. I am asking you this as a professor for this class, as somebody who works with NYU, but also as a human being. Please do not disrespect our students by releasing any kind of recording of this conversation, of their presentations, of any of the ideas that have been shared here. Once this recording is over, we will happily go back to our students and ask them if they're comfortable with sharing it with the world. If so, we will release it. And if not, we'll do a short written summary so that you will get a wonderful souvenir from this conversation. But either way, I know that some of you are also kind of empowering your AI bots as we talk about our AI bots. So let's keep that human component in there and respect our students. And I really appreciate that you would do that. Now, on to Dave Sobel, who wants to hear from the students. Yes, we want to hear from you students. This is your moment. If you could please talk about your experiences as you thought through the scenarios and the increased value of authenticity and human personalization. So he's talking about now specific examples that we have in the present that we will likely have in the future: high-end retail experiences, concierge, medicine, human matchmakers, financial advisors, as they all become more valuable with human personalization. What is your take, students, on the increased value of the personalized advice and that interaction competing with AI? What do you think? And the question, I know it's rather long, but it is in the chat. So, Jor, I see you coming on. Feel free to jump in.
I can jump in. like personally, I think that I would rather have if I get commercials, then like I would rather have commercials with stuff that I actually want to buy or like actually care about. I think that the problem becomes when like these kind of tools are used to manipulate people and make them kind of maybe buy stuff they don't really need because they both create the need for it because they're very personalized or kind of could be more manipulative or know what works on you. So they would create the need for it and also offer the solution. But in terms of kind of the AI advice, I hope to see sometime soon also an AI kind of advisor that will advise what not to buy. Or maybe like exactly what I need to buy, not necessarily what I don't need to buy. Because when I go on kind of platforms like Amazon today and stuff like that, a lot of the stuff that I see is things that maybe I looked a month ago, like maybe I looked before, but I don't necessarily need them now, but like they would keep kind of trying to sell me that. Or like when I go to checkout, they could, oh, maybe you need these too, but like maybe I also don't need these too. So it's like, I hope that if the solutions would be more personalized, they would also be able to kind of say, okay, maybe I don't need these kind of things.
Add to that, like while we were coming up with the scenario of personalization, we also went into a tangent talking about like consumerism and personalization, where the things you buy, like physical products, not just the digital ones that we showcased in a scenario, are also personalized, and how the whole global trade would change to support that cause. So if I want to get like even like clothes that are personalized and are not like bulk made in a different country and shipped to a different country, how we might actually get more localized in terms of production, but globalized in terms of like conceptualization and things like that, and how markets could move closer to us to deliver personalized items to people. So yeah, that was the idea. And one of the other points that I wanted to make when Dean pulled out the point about agency for people, it's like there is one idea to think about building AI itself responsible enough so that does not cause harm and misinterpretation. But I've also seen through history that giving agency, like even a small bit of agency to humans to even recognize that. For example, there was this one example, well, on WhatsApp, sending mass messages, the idea of mass communication completely changed, where once you could now broadcast all of these messages, which led to a lot of misinformation. And just the one agency that came about was like tagging mass spread messages as forwarded multiple times. That itself like was a little bit of agency given to people to have to start having speculation about the in like the content essentially. So yeah, so even with AI and misinformation, there'll be some sort of resistance, and we can give out agency to people in terms of small micro interaction to even like foster some amount of critical thinking into people's mind.
Thank you. All right. And then Ken, who's got another very, very important message. And I say very, very important because I do think that it's something that most of us forget. You know, voters are not people. Consumers are not people. They're usually a market category that allows a certain group to be able to target you for their own purposes. And they are very much part of extractive capitalism. Ken, was there a question that you wanted to ask the students at the end of all that?
Hello. Thank you for this. Just before I say anything else, just want to thank you. This has been extremely thought-provoking. I've learned a lot. I have a lot more questions for myself and for you all. But I'll just say, you know, AI is here to stay. It's not going away. And so I want to look at what are the behaviors that AI rewards, and are those behaviors that support well-being at every level of system? Or are they behaviors that just extract and take wealth and consolidate it and concentrate it? Because if it's in the second category, we're all in really big trouble. So where's the leverage point to shift the paradigm to AI as possibly something akin to a savior for humanity? Of it can help us think through some really wicked messes, things that are extremely difficult for us to think about because we can't hold it all in our heads, and help us to to resolve some of these issues. We've got all the technical know-how to solve almost all of our big problems, but we lack a lot of political will. Is there a way AI can be used, since it's so revered as market analysis and government analysis? Maybe it can help us think through how to design some human design systems to let us be here on this planet for millions of years to come.
Okay, that sounds very optimistic. Was there a question in there?
Yeah, anybody have any ideas on how we can use AI to design such systems?
Okay. Students, we've got 2 minutes left. 3, who wants to jump in?
I guess I don't have an exact answer to that, but there is this one idea that like, us as humans, we can't like physically can't think of large numbers. Like there's an example, if you see 1 tiger, you can imagine how scared you'd be, but if you see 10, like how much how much will your fear increase? Like we weren't designed for that, and that is why like problems at global scale doesn't make sense to us. Global warming, for example, and large amount of people having a say in that. So I guess things like that, where one of the things we were talking about, AI and us sharing the same cause, is where we can have this organism, now that we're calling it understanding and working off of large numbers, kind of collaborate with us to make decisions where we're thinking of an individual person, and our companion is thinking of large numbers. But
yeah, can I add something on to that really quickly? I totally agree with Apoorva, and I think that something else that generative AI and AI in general can give us is the ability to like visualize and iterate and synthesize really like ideas very quickly. And I think that is a superpower in collaboration with working with people and conveying ideas. And I think just having a common language, even if you don't speak the same language, communicating through images, through like asking to generate images that would like explain your ideas or just convey a vision properly. I think that's going to be a really powerful tool in the future to bring people closer together.
Okay, anybody else really quickly? Oh, we've got a whole lot of quote there from Guy at the end. I'm not going to read it, but please do if you have the bandwidth to listen and talk and read simultaneously. The final thing that I wanted to say is congratulations to all our students. I really, really think that you did a phenomenal job. We really appreciate it. For those of you who came, who listened, who participated, thank you so much. For those of you who have jobs, who are looking for great students or past students, because many of these are about to graduate, please reach out to us and we are happy to connect you, because I couldn't recommend them more, honestly. I want to thank Art Kleiner for inviting me to participate in this class. And for those of you who do want to continue thinking about scenarios around artificial intelligence, specifically from a governmental perspective or a corporate perspective, from the engineering perspective, or even from the social justice perspective, Art and I also have a practice. It's an AI advisory, and we'd love to share that with you as well. But in the interim, we want to respect your time. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And for those who didn't speak, conversations will continue in many venues. And thank you again to the students, all of you, and to Juliette. Thank you for taking us through this, and we'll see you next time.